lot of people in the No Man's Sky community have been talking about ideas of doing dungeons on planets in the game. I'm Controlled Chaos, and in this video I'm going to talk about my ideas of how I would implement something like that being a developer. Let's go ahead and get started. So first off, there's easy ways to do it, then there's hard ways to do it. The easiest way Hello Games could do this is they could take the derelict ships, which we already have for the space, dungeon type setup, and put that on planets. And the way I see this doing is it randomly chooses the crashed freighters and puts an actual full freighter on the ground that sort of has fire going on it, and you go through and you do sort of like your normal derelict freighter thing, but instead of having to worry about the cold, you're having to worry about the environment on the planet. That's the easiest way for them to do that. And the reason I say this is the easiest is all that they're doing is they're taking what they already have for the derelict freighters, they're putting it on planets, models and all. And then just doing some slight code change that's needed to swap out the crashed freighters for a crashed derelict freighter. And then also the code for the environment, instead of it being always freezing, it's going off of the environment of the planet. And they're done. Very simple way to do it. Very little code needed to be done. Not as much. Another way they could do it is they could model out these big buildings, or they can use big huge buildings they already have and have like a doorway to go into them. One of the ideas is those new big mechanical creatures that we have that are building size. They could take those models, take the legs off, make it just a building itself, put a door on it, and you go in and you do that. And instead of using the derelict freighter internal modeling system, they could use the current base building stuff that we have for making our own bases to create the corridors and things like, and the different levels and stuff like that. And you go through and you define data, and this is data that you return to the guild officer on a space station for both of these. And I think both of these would work really, really good. But I want to add a slight twist to each of these. For the crashed derelict freighter on the planet, I think at random ones should be set up to, once you've actually gotten the information, what it does is it starts a countdown timer. And the teleporters are all turned off, and you have to remember your way back out and get out in time. And if you don't get out in time, no matter whether you get out in time or not, it explodes. If you're in the freighter when it explodes, then you have to sort of respawn, the normal thing you do in No Man's Sky. If you get outside of the freighter and you're away from the freighter, you get to watch the explosion happen from outside. And that freighter that was derelict, it now turns into a crashed freighter. So it allows it to sort of randomly pop up some of those derelict freighters from where crashed freighters are. And all it's doing is swapping out them all. There is more coding involved there due to the fact that they have to do the timer, the whole entire explosion, that kind of stuff there, and then the swapping it back. So there's more coding there. The other idea I have is with the big buildings and using, like I said, the big mechanoid creatures that we now have in the game that are building size, have them actually be those mechanoid creatures. And when you gather the data, what ends up happening is they start getting up and moving. Now, what makes this hard is through the whole entire thing, whether it's one of these ones that move or don't move, you still have to figure your way out. But you want to rush more in getting out of the ones that get up and move, because it's going to take you away from where your ship is, and you're going to have to go back to your ship. And it may not be as urgent for you as, oh, you can just summon your ship type of thing, right? Well, what happens if you forgot, which I do all the time, I forget to refuel my ship's launch thrusters. If you don't have the automatic recharging launch thruster module put in, it's even more of a hassle. So the further that creature is getting away, that building creature is getting away from your ship, the further of a jaunt you have to make back to your ship. And that'd be an interesting mechanic, because now you're rushing through trying to get out and jump off of this creature to get back to your ship and not have to do such a long walk back if you forgot to refuel your launch thrusters. I think these mechanics are really great ideas. I think it adds more to it. And the great thing is with the movable creatures and the exploding derelict ones, they don't have to be permanent spawns. They can be randomly spawned into an area or over derelict or just crashed ships. That way it just replaces them for a moment. And I think that's really, really interesting, because with the space derelict ships, they can just randomly spawn them where they want in space. So by adding in these self-destructs for the derelict ships and the creature moving randomly choice. So it's not always, it's a chance of these happening. It allows them to spawn ones in random spots, which is nice. And the reason I want it to be randomly happening is just like when you're mining rocks and all of a sudden the rocks pop up and start scurrying off. The first time you saw that, it surprised the hell out of you. Bring that surprise in with the self-destruct and the building getting up and moving. Surprise the player, because they never know when it's going to happen, and it happens to us all the time. I've been playing No Man's Sky for 8 years. Every time I'm harvesting a rock and one of those creatures pops up, it startles me. So it's that little jump scare added into these, and not knowing whether or not it's going to happen on these derelict freighters that are on the ground or the buildings. And then the great thing is they could also add in this explosion for the space ones, the derelict freighters that are in space. That would add another mechanic, and because they already created that mechanic for the ones on the ground, they just take that code and they put it on the derelict freighters in space, causing more of an interesting, oh my god, I gotta get out of here situations. It adds a little bit more peril, a little bit more interest to the current derelict freighters we have, which would be an added bonus to this whole entire idea. But comment down below, let me know what you think of these ideas. Do you like these ideas? I think this will work out best, because if they were to do a cave dungeon, people could easily just use their mining tools and dig through it, or they'd have to cordon off the area and say no terrain manipulation type of thing, which is sort of a bummer, because a lot of the fun in No Man's Sky is this whole entire thing of being able to manipulate the terrain in a mass majority of the area, and the more of that we take away, the less of the feel we get that we have for No Man's Sky. I want to thank you for watching and have a great day.